So today's message is titled Mighty Faith. And the theme for this month is focus. The theme for last month was vision. This month is focus. You see, there's a theme going through there. So we have a vision, could be for our life or where we're going, could be a vision for the world that we wish to see. Knowing, like I spoke last week, that we are part of a many generation change. So we do our part, hold the vision, knowing that not all parts of the vision will come to fruition in our lifetimes. And so we go from vision to focus because that is part of staying on track. If you ever planted or tried to unplant a plant that is vining, you know that they do this thing where they go out and then they kind of, I'm going to use it very handy. They go up and then they kind of do this swirly around thing, right? And they're looking for something to hold on to, the vine. And then when it does, then it hooks on there and then it sticks out another tendril and it goes and swirls around and it looks for something to stick onto. And that's how they make their way. And I was thinking about ideas. Ideas are out there. All the ideas are out there. And they're out there and we're kind of like a vine. They're swirling around looking for somebody to stick to. And maybe that's why sometimes you'll find that people in different places in the world figure out something at the same time. There's many cases where people have done a similar research project and they're about to publish and they find out the other one's doing the same thing. And in the best of worlds, they actually collaborate and make it stronger. But I also think that, we might get a vision, we might get a great idea, and it starts to kind of stick to us. But if we don't stay stuck to it, it'll be like, all right, that's not a good place to stick. And it'll just go back and start swinging around again. And it'll keep going. It'll find somebody to stick to. Not that they're out there thinking about them. They're thinking those things. But so if we want to, once we have the vision to keep it moving forward, we have to bring in focus so it sticks. So we keep it moving. So we have to say yes. We catch it. And then what? Then what? Well, of course, we never use any of our spiritual powers alone, right? So we have faith. Faith is like we have the imagination. That's what helps us see the thing. We have our faith, like, yeah, we could do that. And then we have to use other things like will to keep on the path. So when I think about focus, or lack thereof, I always come back, and I know some of you have heard me tell the story, and I know you know the story, but it's my favorite story for this thing, and that's the story of Peter. Peter, we think of as the disciple of Jesus who represents faith. And what I love about that is there's something very comforting about Peter and representing faith, because Peter gets it and then he forgets, and then he gets it and then he forgets. And it feels very human and comforting because it's like, oh yeah, because that's sort of the experience that we often have, right? We get it and then we have a little cha-cha with our faith sometimes. And so, meaning to say we can always come back, can always get back on track. So Peter was in a boat. It's a common thing to do in biblical times, apparently, get on boats and go across lakes. So Peter and the disciples were in a boat, and Jesus, they had been at a gathering. Jesus had been teaching. He's like, I'm going to go up to the hill mountainside, pray, do my thing. You all go ahead. I'll catch up. And they're like, okay, well, there's a lake, but okay. So they go off across the lake. And then later on, they're there and they see a figure walking across the lake towards them. And they're like, and they realize that it's Jesus. And Peter, being Peter, he's like, Lord, if it's really you, call me to you and I will come. And so Jesus is like, all right, come on. This is, of course, my language. But it could have been their version of that language. He's like, all right, come on. And Peter's like, oh, well, he might have had a moment where he's like, I'm not sure that I really meant that, but okay. So Peter's like, okay, so he's got his focus where he's going. He believes if, Jesus is walking on water, Jesus said, hey, come on. He's like, okay, then I'm good. I can do this. He's like, okay, so he's already seen some amazing things, right? So he steps out of the boat. Okay, things are going good. He starts walking. I'm guessing it's probably around step 3, because when you first start, you're really excited and you're on track, right? And then you start to get distracted, or something happened, and maybe the guys in the boat are like, yeah, go, something. Who knows, right? Maybe he sees a fish, so he gets distracted. He stops looking where he's going, and then guess what happens? He starts to sink, and he's like, oh no. And Jesus is like, oh, Peter, because we've been through this before, is what I think what Jesus was thinking at this time. We've been through this before. But he reaches down and pulls him up and gets him back in the boat, and everything, off they go. But it's a great story about the idea that when we're focused on where we're supposed to be going, we're focusing on what we believe, then we can do what we need to do. And that doesn't mean there won't be distractions, because there will. It doesn't mean we might not start to sink a little bit, because we might. We probably will. But we can get back on track. And that's what's important, is to bring our focus back. Just like when we meditate, we bring our focus back. Just like when we're learning anything new, we got to bring our focus back. We believe that we can, and we do. And sometimes there's side quests. Sometimes we realize, well, this thing I want to do, that I'm called to do, this thing that I'm called to be, it would be really better if I knew this skill. It'd be really better if I took care of, maybe we need to release some things. Maybe we need to, whatever those things are. Okay, so we'll go. We're still we're doing it because we're going this way. We're doing the thing that's ours to do, but it's like, okay, we need to take care of some of these other problems, these other things first, because they're going to just keep slowing me down or getting in my way. Okay, now we can get back on track. And maybe other things are happening and we need to take care of them. The things that are ours to do, the things that are ours to show up in. So we put them, maybe we're on the back burner, but the things that we put on the back burner, when you're making a soup and you're going to let it simmer for a long time, it's still doing things, right? Something's still happening. We still have a nose out to make sure that everything is on track, right? Maybe we have a timer to remind us to add the beans a little bit later or something like that. And we continue to have an openness to the wisdom that might say, well, this is where we're going. And being open to the possibilities that if we maybe collaborate with someone, that it could be even better. It continues to grow. There are options to improve, because we're not going to get the whole picture at the beginning. because it's hard to see the full picture when you have this information, right? And then as you get closer, things come into focus better, right? So it's important to not be too attached, but to be focused on not the particular outcome, but what we're called to be, what we're called to do. And so focus is about taking the vision, taking our calling, and reminding us to, yes, maybe we shift the, do the little thing with the binoculars to make, so we can see it better. But we continue to move in that direction. We continue to keep that on, even when it's in the back burner. We still have it in our mind. We're still processing that thing. We're still keeping it like we haven't forgotten. We're staying focused. And if we start to doubt, we remember Peter. We say, you can just turn back to the direction that we are meant to go. And eventually, the more we do that, the more it's easy. We don't even realize it. Or we stop turning, we stop forgetting altogether. We just have to retrain ourselves. Thinking about stories of hardship, oppression, difficulties. We have them in our fiction. We have them in real life stories. We probably have them in our own lives. The stories that we tell are the stories that become stories of hardship, that become stories of triumph. How does that happen? It happens with the imagination and faith that something different can be done, that we can see it. Sometimes it comes from feeling like whatever hardship this is cannot be this way any longer. Something must be different. But I know plenty of people, and I've heard plenty of stories of people who are in the hardship, and that's the only thing they believe is possible. It does not become a story of triumph. And so we know that if we believe that they can be overcome, then change can happen. It takes faith. It takes focus. It takes so much bravery. Every month should be Pride Month, but it's Pride Month. I'm thinking about so many brave people who have stood up and said, I deserve to live free and safe as who I am. One of my friends was talking about how, Pride's not so much about rainbows and parades as it is about bricks. Speaking about the Stonewall riots, which many say helped kick off this saying, no, I deserve something better than being treated badly. And so you see that I deserve to live free. I deserve to live safely. Everyone does, right? Everyone does. But if you can see that it's possible, you have a vision that it's possible, and you stay focused, then we begin to make it happen. Now, unfortunately, it's not been the best couple years for people LGBTQIA. So there's still plenty of work to do. But much has happened. And so we stay faithful, we stay focused. And that happens for every time that a story of hardship and oppression turns into a story of triumph. It doesn't mean that, many of those stories have not ended yet. Even if we talk about the story, which is a story that's not historically accurate, but then becomes a story that is about a real people. We think about, Moses leaving Egypt, a story of oppression. Like, that story is not complete yet. It's been thousands of years. We stay focused, hold the vision, we have faith, we believe. We shall overcome someday. That's the song. Some people say, oh, that is, giving away the power of it. We shall overcome someday. But I hear it as so much faith, knowing that some of these big things may not happen in my lifetime, but they will happen someday. So we stay focused on what is ours to do. We believe that it can be done. We imagine a world that works for all, and we do the things that are ours to do to get there, whether it's taking care of those things that are getting in the way for us to stay on track, realizing maybe something's on the back burner that to be moved to the front, believing that the hardship can be overcome. That is the story of our triumph.